Who is my role model? It's like me in 10 years.
Meet DIMEJI, an online influencer with over 250,000 followers, CEO of FotoPool, an AI-powered photo sharing tool. But that's not all. He's also a published author and, above all, a devoted husband and father. Ready to hear his incredible journey? Let's dive in. How did you know in 6 days that this is the one?
It's not so much about you just finding someone and then being able to provide for them. The emotional support, the care, the love, everything has to be like a complete package.
Please ask your wife which prayer she prayed. Coming from Africa and the content that you're currently portraying online, do you get any feedback from your family?
So it's a mix of both.
Okay.
And in a weird way, the positives sort of outweigh the negatives. You find your true calling in the place of service.
You have also developed an app called FotoPool. Just tell us a bit about that app. What is it all about?
FotoPool, in the most simplest form, is a digital disposable camera.
Like, where did this come from?
I mean, real life problem. I mean, I study people that are dead. Like,
Okay.
really?
If you were to have dinner with someone who was passed, who would it be?
I would say this might be something that people wouldn't really want, or I think I would find it.
Hi, neighbors. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, JEICY Joyce. From the very first episode, I have always spoken about the power of networking. And today's guest is someone who I met through networking. You might recognize him from your mobile screens. He has millions of views on TikTok, on Instagram. He's a content creator. He's a host and producer of a podcast called Figuring Life Out. We'll have a conversation about that. But he's also an author. He wrote a book which is on Amazon, and I had the pleasure to read your book. It's called Who Sets the Standard? Engineering Your Own Success and Future. But also, you're doing a lot. He is the founder and CEO of the app FotoPool. We're going to have a conversation about that. And most importantly, he is an amazing husband, and he is also Dad of the Year award. DIMEJI, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing? I know you had to travel down from Scotland.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah?
Yeah, enjoying London.
So far, so good?
Yeah.
So you are from Nigeria
Yes.
originally, and you moved to Scotland. How are you finding that change? Because the weather in Nigeria, Scotland, two different things. So how are you finding
Yeah,
it?
there are two extremes, and in a weird way, I would say I'm made for Scotland, and Nigerians might be very weird about this, but I studied architecture, and I remember my final project for my BSc. I did something relating to churches, and I started studying different churches, and I landed on a couple of churches in Glasgow, in Scotland, and I did some research about the University of Edinburgh, which started as a school of theology. So I sort of got a lot of roots with learning more about um, Scotland. I never knew I was going to be here at that time, but then now I'm here, and it just felt like, oh yeah, I know a lot about this place, so I'm finding it easy. The weather is extreme, but I think I'm used to it now.
It is, because I know a few weeks ago we were talking about the blizzard in Scotland.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was your biggest culture shock moving to Scotland?
I think it would be the transition from being a person of your own to someone who needs to be fixed to the system. That was different.
Yeah, I can imagine. Where
Yeah.
in Nigeria are you from?
I'm from Oyo State, Ibadan. No,
Okay.
Isenyi, but I live in Ibadan. Yeah.
Okay.
And there, I mean, just like Nigeria, you can do your own thing. You don't really need to have an employment. So yeah, the sky is your limit. When I moved here, I realized that before I'm able to find my ground here, I need to conform to the system to some extent. And that wasn't fun. Like the first year was really hard.
How long have you been here?
I'll be 2 years in February.
Okay.
Mm.
Cool. And did you move for work, or why did you move from Nigeria to Scotland?
I would say I moved for love.
Oh, that's so lovely. I did say
Yeah.
you're an amazing husband. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because when I met my wife, we met in Nigeria, and at the time she was doing a master's online in the University of Edinburgh. So it wasn't even the picture, but then the school reached out one day and said that there is room for her to come and finish in person, and she had to go. And that was like 2 months to our wedding, and it was quite mandatory for her to come and resume. So, yeah, she moved, did a month, and then came back for the wedding, and then returned. So,
So you met online,
yeah.
okay? Because I did listen to the podcast that you
Hmm.
posted on figuring life out.
Yeah.
You met online, then within 6 months, you proposed.
It was actually 6 days.
6 days. Oh, okay. Okay. Because I think my brain went to months because, like, I'd say that's like probably okay. How did you know in 6 days that this is the one?
It wasn't really a knowing. It was just like I had peace and comfort in my spirit because I wouldn't. I don't like saying I'm quite spiritual, but I take my faith very seriously. And growing up, there would always be this thing in Africa and Nigeria where pray for your future partner, pray for your future life. And I would pray when I was young. And I think when I was 18, there was this series of Bible studies I did that was really intense, and it was just about the women in the Bible. But then I got to a particular period and I just kept studying one particular woman for more than 6 months. So to me, it just felt like, okay, God was showing me something. And I saw the way the dating, sphere was. I just said, I'm not interested. Like,
It's the ghetto.
yeah.
It is the ghetto.
So I'm like, let me just stay my own person and focus on building the things I can build while I'm getting ready for that life. And when we met, it was just via a number of things God was pushing me to do on social media because everything I do online is directed by the Holy Spirit, really.
Amen.
Because I get inspired by something, a word drops in my heart, or I'm studying the Bible, and it just, and those promptings lead me to share things that really help people. Because I'll get several DMs of saying, what you shared today really helped me. So, um, I didn't expect anyone to respond to this one because I waited for like some months before I did that particular instruction, which is talk about existential crisis. And I just shared about that day, and she responded. And the response felt very different because I was like, if someone is going through something like this, they don't come online and say it. So she said it, and I just engaged immediately, like, no, trying to just counter whatever might be the problem. And we ended up in the DMs. And by the third day, hmm, I couldn't really sleep that night because there was that word that kept coming back to me that this is it, don't miss it. I didn't know whether I should acknowledge it or just discard it. But then by the sixth day, I couldn't just take it anymore because I felt like there was so much of myself being ripped apart because I knew something was changing and something was happening. And if I didn't acknowledge it there and then, maybe this won't happen. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just, opened up and said, you know what? We just met. I don't know what this is, but for whatever this might be, I'm just trying to let you know that I'm in it for life. And she said the same thing.
Oh, wow.
And the weird part, the next day we started planning the wedding. So
Is it?
I sort of hold back from sharing this most times because it feels very not possible. But yeah, that's just it.
Y- You know what? It obviously it well, neighbors, you guys should start replying to your DMs and those comments because you might meet your husband or your wife. You never know. So I first came across your content on TikTok, and it was a video of you were preparing food for your wife. I think it was like a meal prep. You were going away, and you're preparing. And there was a lot of comments. There was the views. Where did that idea come from?
I mean, I cook a lot. It's more like a side passion hobby because I think far back 2016, I used to make cooking videos on YouTube,
Okay.
which I've deleted everything, by the way. They
Okay.
were
Okay.
terrible.
So social media is not a yesterday thing. You started a long time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, thanks to living alone and sort of experimenting, Um, and I realized that I was going to be away on a work trip for I think 3 days, and that was when we just had our son. So to me, it didn't feel right to just leave. I didn't even want to go, but I mean, man has to make money. So uh, the only thing that came to my mind was, what does she have to worry about the most? I mean, my son is still breastfeeding, so that's going to be the most work she would have to do. If she has to do anything outside that, it would be too much. So before all of that, I made sure that all the laundry was done, tidy up the house, make sure everything was clean. Like literally did not have to lift a finger to do those very tedious tasks. And then the only thing left now was food. So what are you going to eat? And that's the biggest question. What am I going to eat today?
Because it's an everyday thing, it's an everyday
Yeah.
task. Yeah.
And then the thought of that alone can be very draining, especially when you're nursing a baby. So I was like, you know what? Let me just prep everything she probably would eat for the next 3 days while I'm away. So it won't feel as though I'm away, right? And I mean, most women might agree to this, but I know a lot of women have postnatal depression, and it's something that we don't really talk about. So I'm away. She has to take care of the child. That's going to add to it. We will probably even blow it up more. So let me take care of food, chores, laundry, anything that will probably make her think of, oh, the image is not here. And that was how the idea just came. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should document this. Not really for social media, to be honest. But then in documenting it, uh, I remember someone had made a comment before my post talking about why am I always like, where's his mother? Or something like that. Because I would sort of share about my fatherhood journey and stuff. So I'm just trying to make people sort of understand that there are men who choose to be 100% available, even though they have their own life and their own work. And I just want like that was just came to mind. I was like, okay, I'm going to share this, and let's see if this would maybe change some stereotypes, some narratives of people thinking men don't belong in the kitchen, or it's a survival skill, to be honest. And I mean, I think it had the effect I wanted it to have, but it actually went beyond what I was thinking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's so many people around the world have watched that video, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. Yeah. It's just, please ask your wife which prayer she prayed because I know,
I think
I
so.
know,
That comment was a lot. It was a lot. And I'm
I
like,
know the neighbors will be asking, just write it down and send it so we can share it
maybe I
to,
would ask her.
yeah, now that prayer is definitely needed. At what particular instance led you to share your your life as a father and a husband?
So even before I met my wife, I'd always made videos about my introversion, my journey as a creative, switching from architecture to storytelling, UX design. And sometimes I'll talk about, I'll joke about being single. So I've had a couple of viral videos about when it's time for Valentine's, when everybody's celebrating. I'm like, today is Independence Day for us.
Mhm.
So it's like I've taken people through that journey of, being someone who's single but staying true to my values. So now that I'm a father, I think that should continue. But this time around, it should be very direct and speak to the men, really, that it's not so much about you just finding someone and then being able to provide for them. The emotional support, the care, the love, everything has to be like a complete package. So it was just I think it's a ministry for me to really speak into that, because a lot of things that I know today, I didn't learn from one person. Yeah, my dad was instrumental to all of that because he taught me how to cook. But I didn't just learn from him. I learned from a lot of different people, their mistakes, their experiences, the things they felt they could have done right or done better. Um, I mean, as young as I was at 16, I was already attending conferences of people who have been married 40 years. I mean, that's a different story.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
So
16.
learning all of those things at that young age just opened my mind to see that, yeah, so much training isn't going to building men that will be great husbands. Because I feel like if you're a great husband, you'll be a great leader, a great CEO, a great founder, whatever it is that you're doing. It starts from home. And that was all like, I just said, you know what, I'm going to go all out with this and sort of challenge young men who are of marriageable age to prepare themselves and be right. I don't have to go to churches to do it. I have this platform. So
You have a big
let me just
platform.
use it.
Hmm.
And that's how it all started.
So we live in a society where there is traditional gender roles, right? Especially in the African community. You're from Nigeria, I'm from Tanzania. And but now obviously there's a shift in dynamic, right? So coming from Africa and the content that you're currently portraying online, do you get any feedback from your family?
Yeah. I
Is
mean,
it positive? Is it negative?
so it's a mix of both.
Okay.
And in a weird way, the positives sort of outweigh the negatives. But the positives really come from the women. Because I would get comments like, God bless the father who raised you. God bless your mother. But to me, I'm like, no, it's not really about that. Is that, yes, they raised me, they gave me the proper training. But then I also had to raise myself again because there were people who got the same training that I did, but didn't do anything with it. And even worse. So most of the comments I get, the positive ones are really from the women. And then young men sort of add to that. But then the negative ones really are from the older men. And I wonder why. I'm still doing my research to understand more into that. So
I think it probably has to do with perception because they grew up in a different world where things were different. You know, so they're still ingrained in those ways. And the thing with the older generation is they really don't want to change. Like I work in an industry that is very boomer dominated, and I work in it's a tech industry, right? So change is there, like it happens. But then changing their mentality sometimes is very hard. But you're doing a lot and you're doing cool stuff, right? You have also developed an app called PhotoPool. Just tell us a bit about that app. What is it all about?
PhotoPool in the most simplest form is a digital disposable camera. But for the people who want to probably make it sound complicated, it's an event management app, photo event management app. And the idea is to be able to help event organizers collect point of view images or content from their audience or the people attending their events. So, say you're organizing a conference, for example, there are lots of people attending your conference and they're sharing, like they're taking different photos, snapping different things. As an event organizer, you only get to have maybe one or two official photographers, and they only capture from their own lens what the people are, what's happening within the event, not necessarily what the guest or the attendees are seeing. So, what we do is basically make it possible to generate user generated content from the people who attend your events. So, say I organize a conference for creators, for example. And creators are around the place, they're taking fire photos that they will eventually share on their social media, which is cool. But I also want to get in on those photos because I know they're producing like the best content. So, yeah, all you have to do is set up an event on PhotoPool and they join the event, or you share the code with them or the link, they join the event and they're able to upload whatever photo it is that they've taken onto an album within the Photopol app. So the album is linked to each event, and both guests and hosts, anybody who joins that event is able to see all of the photos that has been uploaded. So compared to the traditional disposable cameras, only the guest can see like the photos. Every other person won't see what they took. So everyone can see them, and then you get the opportunity to actually download photos that you feel are cool, you want to use for whatever purpose or anything. But then we realized maybe a few months into building that it can be quite difficult for people to find their photos or where they appear. It's not just about sharing different photos. So we're like, what if we make it easier for you to find pictures that you appear in? So say you go for a conference, a large conference, and everyone is taking pictures. You stood by someone to take a picture, but you can't remember what the person is. Or you could just go on the app and use the AI integrated feature that scans your face and then scans through all of the photos that have been uploaded to that particular event and picks out all your pictures into a folder for you. So you can see everywhere you've appeared in photos within that event.
That is a pretty cool invent. Honestly, that is so cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have an event,
Okay.
right? I have PhotoPool on my phone.
Yeah.
All my guests also have to download the app
Yes.
onto their phones.
Yeah.
And then it's just taking picture via your normal camera
Yeah, your normal camera.
and then uploading it onto PhotoPool. Everyone can download the pictures, or is it just the event host?
Everyone can download them. So the reason why I said, so the AI scans the guest, the user's face, and within that event, the album, whatever photo you've appeared in, it puts it in a folder for you called Your Photos. And you can see yourself in anything. So say there are 5,000, 10,000 photos and you appear in maybe 45 or 50, it brings those 50 to you separate. So it's away from all of the 5,000 to scroll through.
And what inspired the idea? Like, where did this come from?
I mean, real life problems.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's always about solving a problem.
So someone at a wedding, like a very popular influencer, and then came online to lament about something that happened. So the photographer called 10 days after the wedding and was like, can she come to the hotel to take additional photos? And she felt like something was off. Like, why would I come for additional photos after my wedding? So she pestered him till he confessed and was like, he's sorry, but he lost access to all the photos, whether the card crashed or something happened. And she said, I really don't care about pictures of me in the wedding dress. What I really care about is seeing the people that came. What was the vibe of the event? And we just thought, what possible solution would be for this, something like this? So we started, thinking, and I'm a UX designer, so I went straight into decision thinking mode. First is we'll probably create a Google Drive and ask everyone who attended the wedding who took photos on their phone to please upload their photos to that Google Drive. But there were lots of drawbacks and drop-off points with that. So the decision was, okay, what if we use WeTransfer? So consider different options, and then what if you just build something that makes this possible? I did lots of interviews with different users, potential users, sharing, what do you think about this? And we're like, oh yeah, this is great. I would like to use it. And that's how the MVP just started. And we launched, I think 5 to 6 months ago, like a soft launch. And so far we've had over 1,000 users, close to 10,000 photos uploaded, more than 300 events used, and like over 24 countries, which is interesting. And this is without marketing or anything.
Yes.
And we're still building.
So what's the vision for the platform? How does the future look like?
So the vision really is to, I would say, not target, but partner with large event organizers, like major conferences within the UK, like Black Tech Fest, because the idea is if you get the big players, people who organize the events themselves, you get more users. So you get Black Tech Fest, you have 10,000 people attending. Let's say, 2,000 of them, apply or join the app. Yeah, that's good. But then it's pretty much making sure that events don't lose out on those user-generated content, because that's important. It helps you tell better stories, not just, think about TMO, for example. They spend a lot on marketing.
TMO is everywhere.
But you rarely see them pay influencers because there is a lot of UGC content being developed because of how everywhere they are. So that's part of the idea. But yeah, the bigger plans, and I'm looking forward to those. 2025 is big. The AI feature is live already, but for everybody, they'll get it, sometime in December. So yeah, looking forward to
Are you doing many rounds of funding?
We're getting prepared for funding, but yeah, we want the AI to be out. Yeah. Rank up with a lot of users, because I've seen lots of weddings through the app and I'm quite excited, but I'm looking for more corporate events. So, it's good to have talking points with investors.
Of course. Yeah, no, definitely. And it's a subscription-based platform.
Yeah. Right now it's free up until April next year.
Okay, so neighbors, you heard it. Right now it's free. So go download the app. And it's on
Play Store and
an
App Store. Yeah.
Apple Store. Okay.
I mean, you can't leave anyone out.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. You need everyone on there. So I said you're doing a lot, but you're still doing a lot. Okay?
When you say a
Because
lot, it makes me feel like, oh my God, I'm doing so much.
no, like this is in a good way, right? Because you know what? I'm just trying to compare myself. I'm only doing one thing and I'm already tired, right? So you have a lot of things and a lot of projects that you're doing, which is, very fantastic. You also have a book. I had a chance to read your book and you dive into success and happiness, right? But there was also a point that you talked about expectations about what you did in university and the job market and stuff like that. What inspired you to write a book?
I would say lockdown.
Okay, okay. Well, lockdown did inspire a lot of things.
Yeah. But even before uni, um, I'd always had this my way with words, you know. I remember when I was in high school, they used to call me Papa Dim. And the reason for that was because someone came to ask me a question. I was like, who is my role model? And I couldn't really give the guy an answer. And I was like, me in 10 years. And when I said that, it was, the boy was like, what kind of old man mentality do you have? You know?
Now I love that. I need
Yeah.
to start using that.
And, when I was 18, and that was I think when I was maybe 8. So when I was 18, I just remembered that entire experience. And I was like, this is me in 10 years. What has really changed? Like that boy from 10 years ago, now, what would you really see as been different about me? Would he be impressed? Would he be excited? Would he be sad? And I felt like, okay, I can answer that question at 18. So let me wait till 28. I mean, I'll be 30 next year, by the way. I feel old.
Listen, I don't even want to. My birthday is tomorrow, right? I'm turning 32.
Oh, wow.
And I feel young. I don't know about you,
All right,
but
I'm young.
yeah,
I'm
you
young.
are young. 30 is because when you're in your 30s, you know yourself. Okay, you know what you
Yeah.
want, you know what you don't want. So, it's all about growth.
So that's exactly what the book,
Yes.
was addressing. Really is great expectations sort of make all of us start imitating each other. And that sort of gets into this rabbit hole, right? And I almost fell into that. But then at 18, I was already telling myself that I'm not going to work for anybody. Not because I didn't enjoy work, but I just felt like there is more to me than wanting to stay fixed to one thing. And I started studying. I mean, I study people that are dead. Not to make it sound weird,
Oh,
like
okay.
reading about people who are still alive. I feel like
Oh,
they can easily
okay.
come back and change what they've said, or
Okay.
maybe mess up
Mhm.
and then get me, disappointed. So I studied biographies of people who have done great things and they're long
Who have
gone.
passed, yeah.
They can't come back and say, oh, that didn't work. I study details of success of people who have tried it and sort of seen good growth and good success in certain things. And I realized that many of them at the end of their lives would come back to say something very similar along the lines of, I wish I had prioritized myself and my loved ones.
Yeah, there is a book about that actually. I don't recall the name, but the author spent time in a facility, or like end of life facility, and literally everyone said the same thing. Like they wish they lived a life true to themselves. And yeah, sometimes, with social media now, people
It's
tend
just a
to,
rabbit hole.
yeah, it
So
is.
I then came across a book by um, Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. And it sort of opened my mind to see that those people who spend 10,000 hours focusing on one thing, yes, they get good results. But then the other part that people really don't talk about is those results come at a cost of either your sanity or the life that you really desire. And I'm like, okay, what's the perfect blend? Because I always try to find balance. But balance for me is not 50-50, right? what do you give more preference to? And it happens in different ways. Sometimes it might be 80-20, sometimes it might be 60-40. It depends on what you want to give attention to per time. So I then started thinking about it. I've tried to practice this thing for myself for 2 years. I started in 2016, and by 2018, I realized that I think living a life of less would sort of make me feel more fulfilled and happy with myself than really chasing everything that I'm not supposed to be. And by 2019, I started thinking about, okay, how do I document these thoughts so it can help somebody else? I thought starting a podcast was going to help, but it didn't. It just made me feel more stretched and more stressed because I would have to find people to interview, trying to get. But I realized that I was doing the opposite of what I originally wanted to do, which is put together my thoughts, not necessarily get other people's input. Because the more input I get on what I'm trying to put together, the more I start to question what I'm doing. And then lockdown came the perfect time where the entire world was sort of locked out. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to pen down all of these thoughts, not to make it a very giant book, something very small. You
It's
can
very
consume
small. It's a
it
very
quickly,
yeah, easy
but
read.
then I think you should be able to change some things in your mindset. And I didn't publish it until 2023. And publishing it just sort of opened my eyes to see that, okay, people actually wanted something like this, but they didn't know where to get it because every book you probably will find will talk about processes, systems, and all of these things, which there's no, it's not really doing anything for you. They just give you like breakdown of different things, information overload, and what do you do after that? And I mean, not too many people have bought the book, but the reviews I've gotten from the few people who have read it just gives me courage and hope that, okay, in the nearest future, maybe this will be evergreen and people will find it maybe like 10 years from now and still, learn from it.
You spoke about that you like studying people who have passed. If you were to have dinner with someone who's passed, who would it be?
I would say Jesus, but I read about him every day and I sort of
Yeah.
hear from him. I think one person would be, hmm, it's quite hard to choose. There are a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. Okay. Okay, let's say you have a group of 3 people. Who are your 3 picks?
My three picks.
Yeah. So Jesus is one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Then the 2.
I'd like to find that guy, Paul.
Uh-huh.
Why didn't you get married?
Uh-huh.
Or why did you write stuff for married
Okay, yes,
people?
Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Paul from the Bible.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think the third person, and this might be something that people won't really want, but I think I would find Hitler.
Mm-hmm. Hitler?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Jesus and Hitler on the same table. Okay.
Yeah. Because I feel like
Yeah.
extremes helps you understand,
True.
what life really is all about. Because I mean, I wouldn't say I don't believe in this, but there's this whole thing of yin and yang. It works together. So how do you know, like, where is the meeting point? People try to stay on. People they try to avoid this, but most people they have too many gray areas. How do you clearly define what's white and what's black? If you know that, then you should be able to tell where the gray area is and not go close to it. So I think, yeah, that's me.
So you create content. You have over 150K followers on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Might be more. Then you have YouTube, you have TikTok, and obviously other platforms. You did mention, I think when we met, we kind of spoke about this, and you said that you're an introvert. I don't see it today, okay? So how do you navigate social media, creating content that resonate with people? While you say that you're an introvert, how do you even get comfortable in front of a camera?
I mean, it's practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, I think, 7 years coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when it all started, it didn't start from in front of the camera. It started from in front of actual people. I studied architecture and we would always do these things called jury, where you would have to present your work in front of your class and then lecturers or a panel of judges. They call them jurors. And I chose this path, I chose this career, but now I have to face one of my greatest fears, which is actually standing in front of people to address them. I don't like confrontational moments.
No, same.
I don't like them.
I don't like that at all.
And then this puts me on the spot. Like When I was in high school, anything that would put me in the spotlight, I would almost do anything to avoid it. And I remember the first time I had to stand in front of my class of 30 thereabout, I froze for like 3 minutes. A friend had to come and tap me and said, Dim, are you okay? And that was the day I said, you know what, let me start working on this thing. But I didn't do anything about it. And then in my final year, or maybe my first year of masters, I did a project that was really big, and I think it was one of the best in the class that year. And coincidentally, there was a competition that was going to happen in the entire state, like the southwestern region. And my school was going to go for the competition, so they picked my work. But when it was time to pick the person to go and do the presentation, it wasn't me. They were like, no, the image is too
Yeah,
shy.
DIMEJI is shy.
He might not do the best job, even though he knows it, but the confidence might not be there. And then someone else went and the project won. Someone else took the glory. And that was the day I was like, no more.
Something needs to
Yeah.
change.
And then I started what I would call the longest year of my life, trying to just beat this. So I started with just reciting whatever I would want to say to people on a bigger stage in front of my mirror. I'll do that like very often. And then I took up the role of the class governor. And after taking that, I realized that, okay, I would have to talk to my classmates every day. So okay, that's cool. It won't be so bad. And then before I knew it, in church, I was told to come and not lead, it was to do the announcement. And this was going to stand in front of close to 500 people. I had to write out everything I was going to say on my iPad, and I was standing in front of the mirror to recite it almost for like 3 days. Eventually, when the day came, the pastor had to come and pat my back and say, don't worry, you'll get better at this, because I was sweating through my blazers.
Yeah.
And then it was just a gradual process. And then there's this thing in Nigeria called National Youth Service Corps, NYSC. And I did that. I was posted to Ondo State. And, some people saw that, okay, I knew a few things, but then made me the evangelism secretary for the state. And would organize these things, these outreaches called Rural Rugged, where we'll go to like remote areas to talk about Jesus, to evangelism, and bringing together close to 3,000 like youths to the same location. And I was in charge of that. So I had to address all of them. So
Wow. So they
it was,
just threw you in the deep
yeah,
end
so
like
it was
that.
building up
Yeah.
from 30 people in the class to 50 people to 3,000, to the point where I was speaking to close to like 5,000 people in the conference. And then little by little, the confidence was changing, and I sort of felt more confident in first hearing my voice and then standing in front of people. But there were a lot of things that happened in between. And being an introvert really became a strength for me, because I'm like, I'm at liberty to choose what I want to talk about. And this way, I'm able to also show other persons that, look, it's not so difficult. It's not about putting yourself out there, really. It's about showing up for yourself and what you believe in. And I didn't know how big this was until I started making videos about introversion. But then the day I knew that this was actually something that's helped a lot of people was when an NBC News now in the US reached out and was like, they have a segment on on their morning show during National Introverts Week, and they would want me to speak. I'm like, what?
Wow. That's
I'm
big.
like, okay.
Yeah.
I was actually like, that day was, my heart was beating, because I was like, oh no, this is huge. And when I posted about it and people went to go and watch the actual session, my comments were wild. People were like, thank you so much. And that was the day I knew that, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll stand for this and actually stand true. So that's the weird story.
No, it's not weird at all. I come off as someone who is very well spoken. I'm bubbly, but honestly,
It takes a lot of work
it
behind the
does.
scenes.
It does take a lot of work. So for introverts out there, right, who also want to get onto social media and I don't know, post about whatever they want to post about, what's the advice that you would give them?
People don't bite.
You know what? I had to learn that. I had to learn that.
Yeah, people don't bite. And what's beautiful is introverts have this I don't know. There's just this aura around introverts that they know stuff because we are very observant. We internalize things, we process them, which means there's a lot you are noticing around. Your mind is not filled with too many clutters because you're carefully thinking things through. So that means that when you deliver something, it's of quality. You've considered many different scenarios and then you're bringing out one of the best. So it means that anyone who's hearing you speak is actually at an advantage because what's coming out to them is some of the best things you have in your head. So it should give you this maybe confidence boost that I have something worthwhile people can or will listen to. But it doesn't start out that way. Most people feel like, okay, who is this person? But then the more they start to hear you and see you, they get comfortable with you. They get very chill with you. Like now, this morning at the airport, I met two people who came to greet me. I'm like, hi, are you DIMEJI? And I was like, hello,
Yeah,
nice to
yeah.
meet you. Do you guys want to take a selfie?
Yeah.
Because before I would just say hello and just take my face
Yeah.
away. But now I'm learning to welcome people, so it feels like, oh, this guy's not different from who he is online and in person, and just make people feel welcome. So yeah, people don't bite. And if I'm being honest with you, most of them really just want to say hello and just be cool with you. And the thing is, even in extroverts admire introverts doing things that feels impossible for them. I have friends who will be like, how did you get to do all of these things? And I'm like, look, you guys made it possible. Because in some cases, you be the one to push me and say, Dimeji, go forward. So if people are pushing you into the spotlight, don't run away. But what you should do instead is observe whether it's the right stage to be on. Because the kind of people who listen to you can give you maybe good feedback, morale boost, or probably just put you down. So don't be quick to jump on any stage. There's a lot more, but
Yeah. Can I just say, you are one of the most humble influencers, creators I've ever met. Because I remember when we met at Black Tech Fest. And I was with my friend and I was like, I know this man, like I know him, right? Then we came to say hi. And I was like, oh yeah, from TikTok and stuff like that. Then we took a picture. I was like, wow, that interaction was very lovely. Sometimes you wouldn't get an interaction like that from someone who has a very huge following on Instagram. So, nah, that's good. But you also talk about your faith. Is your faith keeps you grounded?
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it might not be there anymore right now on my Instagram. But for I think some like 3 or 4 years, I just added there Christian creative. And people would always ask me, why do you have that there? Like, and I'm like, first, it didn't all these things didn't come from me. This brain didn't come from me either. So if I'm not connected to something that makes it possible, then you'll be seeing these results you see today. And I think the day I knew that there's no way I can split both is I was studying the book of Acts of Apostles, and there was something that happened. I mean, it's something that everybody knows, the day of Pentecost. But then what I realized was that people of different races, tribes, and everything came together in one place to witness something. It wasn't the people they came to see. It was the manifestation.
Yeah.
But then what happened was there was a spillover to every other person. And then I realized that wait, if Peter could do this thing where this guy was unlearned, he didn't know anything. And then after the experience, things changed. And I'm like, oh, okay, I need the Holy Spirit. If I'm going to sort of, because I've always told myself that I know one day I'm going to be in the spotlight and I need to be prepared for this. And the only way to do that was to take my faith seriously, really stay grounded, learn more about leadership, about service. I would always say this to my friends, even to my friends online, that you find your true calling in the place of service. So all the skills I had growing up, video editing, photography, um, graphics design, I was using everything in church to people who needed them around me. Really not charging for it, even though later on recommendations started coming in that this guy is good. I am. And I just use that to make sure that, okay, people can see that you don't have to be two extremes. You can be a Christian or whatever faith it is that you practice and still be diligent in what you do. So, yeah, that was where I saw it. Like the diligence, the excellence, it comes from what's within you. And if you can channel what's within you out there, I mean, people would see it, but then they'll question, okay, where is it really from? And then they will want to get closer to it. So I'm not going to have a church or anything like that, but then this is my own ministry, and it is one of the important things God has given me. So my gifts, my skills, my experiences, coupled with my faith, is what is really going to make that platform possible. And going all out with it is important. Like carrying it on my head, like we would say. So
That's good. So, do you have any upcoming projects
yeah,
apart from? I know we spoke about photo pool app and that
protocol, yeah.
you have things coming on next year, but like, do you have anything else apart from that?
Yeah, I do. And this is sort of going to make me sound like I do a lot of things.
No, you know what?
So
Keep doing them.
yeah. So I've always been thinking about the tech digital landscape, and try to understand more about the barrier of entry for most people. I started a major part of my creative journey with a smartphone. And I realized that those limitations that I felt I had at the start, I did have a camera, all of these things were just limited, were just like builds up in my head.
Yeah, I think these are things that you just tell yourself,
Yeah.
but in
I mean,
reality, your
I posted
smartphone.
about it on Twitter this morning
Mhm.
and people went crazy. Like, I don't have money. And I'm like, no,
No, you don't need it. Yeah.
right? Is easy to say,
It is easy to say.
Yeah, but
I
that's the
am,
truth.
yeah, but the truth is, all you need is your smartphone, and you could start something. Also, when you look at like the videos that get a lot of traction, look at the quality of the video. Sometimes
They're
you're like,
exactly.
yeah,
So I'm starting something. Not I started already, but I've never really talked about it. It's called Virtue, and Virtue means the art of something or the excellence of the creation of something. And I realized that lots of creative people, innovators, are doing amazing things behind the scenes. No one really knows. They feel intimidated. They feel challenged. They feel like they don't have the right resources. And yeah, so it's a trust for people like this, and it can be anything. So you want maybe something to advance your experiences or your tech or your tools. Um, Partner with people who have the means but don't know what to do with it, and then be able to support these people. It's not a VC or anything, but it's just finding people who have resources. And one of the spin-offs of that is, I mean, maybe it exists, but it will be something around tech to Africa, where whatever tech you're using here that you feel you don't need use of anymore, you can bring it to us, and then we take it to people who would actually value it in other places. It doesn't even have to be Africa. It could be someone in the UK who is challenged with trying to get a new camera, and you have one that you feel like you don't need anymore. So, but that's just the crude idea. It's still forming up. The first arm of this is happening early next year, and is I mean, I started my whole thing with a Google Pixel, and it will be gifting someone a Pixel to at least jumpstart or make their creativity better in a way that sort of maybe they didn't imagine could be possible. So it's things like that. They might be little, but they contribute something tangible to someone's development. Because I'm where I am today because, yes, the experience was there, the zeal, the excitement was there for me. And I didn't really see those tools as limitations. But for some other persons, it might be. And coupled with that, just offer them a little bit of advice and guidance in their career. So,
let's just paddle back a bit.
okay.
What motivated you to start the content creation?
I think I wanted to give back. Yeah. So this is going to take me back to something else that I feel like is going to make me sound all over the place. So while studying architecture, very early on, I took on visual design, which is like a spin-off of architecture. So while doing architecture, you will learn about graphics and all of that. So I started practicing that. And then I found Photoshop, Illustrator, and the likes. And I started practicing. I got really good. to a point where if there was anyone who wanted to do like run for a position in school or all of these associations, I would design the banners for them. And then later on, had a small agency where I was doing designs, doing printing, and all of that, and architectural models. So from there, I started to see that there is this knowledge gap between learning something and actually practicing it in the real world. And I couldn't learn from anyone who was Nigerian at the time because the experience wasn't really there. People didn't really take it seriously. They didn't understand the business of design. They only understood Corel Draw and no shades to Corel Draw. And I read a book. I can't remember the name right now. And then the book just opened my eyes to see that, look, no matter how small the knowledge you have, you get to learn more when you teach what you know. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, let me try this. I'm going to start making short videos about what I know. So I started doing this thing called the brand series. We will share about design, branding, and a little bit of architecture, how architecture influenced design. And people started taking it a little bit seriously. Then I started sharing more into the kind of resources I feel people can find to learn and grow. And from there, it grew into a design school where we would train people and then do talent placements for them. So we train them, we make sure that they are okay. Uh, got Adobe and Google to sort of certify these people in a way, just like certificate, not like something professional, just to say that, okay, you went through a system that makes you know more into design. And that became interesting. And from there, I was like, okay, it's not just even for designers now, it could be for anybody. What skill do you have? What experience do you have? How can you use very fundamental principles to learn more about this path and really take it seriously? So it was more from a give back perspective. But then later on, I realized that all the people that I trained or that we trained, because I had a friend who joined me on this, many of them didn't really go far because they lacked the soft skills. So I switched my strategy, started talking more into the things that make you a better person, a better thinker, a better executor. Started talking more into why introversion is a superpower, how to not overcome, but how to manage procrastination, imposter syndrome, and those things. And then I realized that, okay, it goes deeper now into the kind of family and upbringing you have and all of those preconceived notions in your head that sort of keeps you down. I know people are very skilled, but I know this is not to boast, but I know they won't really do much with it because they still have things in their makeup that sort of makes them feel like I have to be limited to this. And if you're able to go through this, some of the things that sort of put out there, it will sort of change the way you think because it will make you see that those limitations aren't necessarily there. It's just a way your mind has made you feel like, yeah. And to cap it all, I found a way to now infuse faith into it. Not the typical way where you say go to church and everything, but if someone is thinking a lot and being introspective a lot, there's a way they find God. And like in a subtle way, I introduce that into my content, and it's been good.
It's like you're doing like a 360 degree because you spoke about how you started content because you wanted to help people, and then you spoke about virtue, like giving back. It's like you're going round, which is good. Now you're giving back to the community that brought you to where you are right now. Yeah. No, you know what? You're doing amazing. So we have a few questions from our neighbors.
Okay.
This will be a Q&A. So,
All right.
yeah. So our neighbors ask, what inspired your TikTok videos on fatherhood?
Okay. So this particular one, some of the videos are just like my very deep expressions. These are things I love to do. But I could remember from my university days, I would always tell my friends that I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad. And it didn't make sense to them. Like, what's this guy saying? What does
Yeah,
that
it's
even
like
mean?
why would you say that? Yeah.
Yeah. Like we would always hear house husbands, full housewife. But to me, I'm like, hmm. And the reason for that came from so the family I come from, my mom for the longest time, even up until now, she's someone who like focuses on the children ministry in church. So she would always be the one in the junior church or the children's church taking care of the younger ones. And my sisters, just followed suit. And then my brother also did the same. I found out like maybe a number of years later. I'm like, okay. And then I also sort of became interested in it. But what really changed everything for me was the day that I was teaching a class. I used to teach, it was Sunday school, teach age 9 to 12. And then I made a mistake during one of the Bible studies and I carried Elijah for Elisha and we went on. But then I remembered I made a mistake, so I corrected them. You won't believe that it took me 4 Sundays to actually get them to remember the correct thing. Because the next Sunday I asked them, from last week, do you remember this? And they kept saying Elisha, Elisha. I said, no. So it took me 4 Sundays. And I was realized that, wait, whatever these children learn between that age 9 and 12 sort of sticks with them for life. So imagine the number of kids that have learned the wrong things within that age range and they carried on for the rest of their lives. This is what eventually makes people grow into adults with trauma and all sort of things, things that they've sort of kept in that has become like a part of them that really can't change. Maybe if you have one interesting transformation with God, but usually it doesn't
It
change.
stays with you, yeah.
And it was just a thing for me that, you know what, first, let me see how I can help these younger ones, be better. And I had to first work on myself. And in the process of working on myself, and like I mentioned, listening to people who have been in marriage for like 40 years. And the story behind that was I used to design for a pastor who would do these conferences, but it was like, DIMEJI, I don't have money to pay you, but what I have is you can attend my conferences for free. And that was where I was learning a lot of things. And I realized that a lot of parents neglect the train up your child part, but they provide. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be 100% dad. Yes, provide, but at the same time, be there within, not even within those transformational ages, I'll be there all through. Yes, it's difficult. I'm not going to lie. Like me having to come to London, I was like, oh my God, I have to leave. But at the same time, I'm thinking, how do I balance it? There's no balance. It's like, it's not like equal balance. And that just led to me being very upset with the way I see people talk about, oh, deadbeat dad and stuff like that. I'm like, why is that the narrative? I'm just one person, but let me see if I contribute to the right narrative, right? Let me share my reasons behind why I chose to be a stay-at-home dad. It doesn't mean I'm lazy. It doesn't mean my wife is the one providing. No, but that I'm staying 100% present within those ages that my child would always want to see me. And those videos just come out of, okay, today I'm having this experience. It might be worth documenting and share with someone, maybe to help them. And I've had quite a number of young men DM me and say, look, I didn't have a dad like this. I'm going to be a father soon. Like I know someone who just gave birth and, we've been talking and just sort of helping him through the many things, realizing that people have lots of trauma from parents, like transferred over to them. And subconsciously it will just lead over to the children as well. So yeah, it's one of those things for me to talk about. Those videos are also to help women realize that you can actually find someone, might not be the best person ever, but if they can give attention to your children, it's important.
Very important. Yeah, it shapes the way they grow because so my father was around, but he was always busy. But like I remember the moments when I spent time with him. Like those are
Yeah.
not the part where, he just provided for the family and kept food on the table, which was really good. But it's the moments he took me to the park. We went out like shopping. Like those are the moments I'm like, yeah.
So, there's this thing in UX design called the peak end rule. And what happens is people get to remember the peak of an experience and the end of it. Usually you remember the start. And I realize this is the journey of life. You remember those peaks, the values you won't want to remember because they're not so great. And what society has started to teach us now is to remember more of the valleys than the peaks. And that's not right. Because if everything you remember is the times that you were depressed, that you were sad, that you were not happy, you forget all of the times that you were actually great, that you were doing really well. And if you have a present father, it helps to remember those peak moments more than the times when, you weren't so great. Like for me, like I have lots of peak moments. I really remember terrible things that happened to me
Yeah. Yeah.
because of
Same.
this. So, and it also changes the way, like, I feel like if a woman gets married to a man who is caring to our children, the care extends, which means it first starts with the woman and then goes to the children. And that makes it sort of beautiful.
That's true. I know the neighbors will kill me if I don't ask this question. You said you have a brother. Is your brother single?
No, it's not.
Neighbors, I tried. I really tried. I tried to ask the question, but there you have it. The brother is also married. So, another question is, if your son writes a book about you in 20 years, what will the title be?
Man, that's hard to say. But probably be around Daddy's always there
Yeah.
or something. Because I'm going to be there through all of those milestones. Yeah, God help me.
Nah, in Jesus' name, that will
Yeah,
happen.
amen.
That's really good. Okay. Fire round questions. So this is quick fire questions.
Okay.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Okay, so you'll be British.
No, no, no,
You're
no.
British.
No.
No.
I can get quite hyper, so nah.
Okay, so tea.
Yeah.
Your favorite Nigerian dish?
Hmm. Yeah, it's my local dish. It's amala with begiri and ewedu. We call it abula.
Okay,
Yeah.
what does that consist?
So amala is English is quite weird. Amala is like
Is it like
it's
what?
made with yam flour
Okay, so it's
into
but
a pudding. Yeah,
okay,
so it's amala.
okay, so
So
it's is
it's
it like
swallow.
like a ball?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It's usually dark.
yeah.
And then ewedu is I'm not sure what the name is. Yeah,
But is it
but
a
yeah,
vegetable?
it's vegetable, but it looks blended. But there's this thing we use, like there's this broom you used to make it. Yeah. And then begiri is bean soup mixed in it with stew and goat meat.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Your go-to meal to cook for your wife?
Yeah. Spaghetti bolognese with meatballs.
Oh, yeah, I do like a spaghetti. That's good. Your dream collaboration for PhotoPool?
It's quite a lot.
That the one that
Yeah.
is
Right now, I'll just say maybe Black Tech Fest.
okay. Black Tech Fest. That could happen. Definitely. I'm totally 100% sure that that will happen. Okay. The hardest task. Pitching for PhotoPool or convincing your son to take a nap.
Oh, so if this was like 7 months ago,
Yeah.
I'll take convincing him to take a nap. But I pitched Photopole like some 3 nights ago, and oh my god, it's quite weird to pitch in 60 seconds and get everything out. So yeah, having to condense so much information into a very short period of time. Yeah. But yeah, yeah. If it's about the time, yeah, I'll probably say pitching Photopole. Because it's quite tricky depending on the audience. Sometimes you're with the audience that they're mostly, people attending a party and stuff. You could just easily swing into the wedding story. But then if it's the investors or people potentially would, invest in your stuff, you have to be more technical, sharing wins and metrics and things like that. So
One word to describe 2024 so far.
I would say planting,
Okay,
like
planting.
a
Yeah,
yeah,
like okay,
like a
like
planting
planting. Yeah.
season. Yeah. Because a lot of things took root this year. And yeah, next year will probably be like watering them. Yeah, looking forward to the harvest.
Looking good. So we have come to the end of the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So soon?
See, we're having a very good conversation. Is there anything that you'd like to tell our neighbors?
I think I've pretty much said it all. But um I'll just share a story. like one of the most recent stories that I encountered and just changed the way I think about a lot of things. So it started snowing in Scotland quite early, and I ride a lot. So
As in a
occasionally,
bicycle
yeah,
or okay.
occasionally when I'm riding, I like after like 5 or 10 minutes, I stop to clear out snow from my bike and the tires. And there was a particular stop I made, and there was an old man with a 20 something boy or man sitting beside him. And to me, I would assume that's his son. And I just was hearing part of their conversation, and he said a statement that really I still can't get out of my head right now. He said, minimizing stupidity will take you far in life.
So wait, who said this? The old
The
man?
old
Or,
man.
okay.
First, I just couldn't picture myself in that boy's shoes because I'm going to be,
Yeah.
it's a difficult conversation they were having. And I heard that it actually it took me very hard. Like I was like, hmm. And I got home that night and I kept thinking about it over and over again. And then I had a conversation with my wife around, um, uh, how we've made decisions this year, managing finances and things like that. I was like, man, you've made lots of stupid decisions this year. And then that thing just kicked in. And I'm like, okay, what's actually the way out for me? And I came down to three things, which I think I sort of touched on in my book. The first is that it's not about um, not deciding things at all or sort of waiting on things. It's really pausing before you make decisions. So try to reduce impulsive decisions so much, like as much as possible.
Yeah.
And it's not really about choosing the easiest path, but more the smartest one. It doesn't mean the smartest path is cool or nice. It might be harder, but in the long run, it sort of saves you a lot of stress compared to making, like hasty decisions because it's quick. And then it's important to understand the difference between being cheap and being frugal. So, yeah, just from that, what that man said to that son, to his son, I think his son, in my head, I'm just like, whew. So,
Now that
yeah,
was deep.
to the neighbors,
Yeah. Yeah.
minimize stupidity to a great extent. It will save you a lot of stress. I feel like it would, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming all the way from Scotland to the podcast. I really appreciate it, honestly. I always talk about the power of networking. You meet cool people, guys. Put yourself out
Yeah.
there. You like, look at me sitting with 150K followers. Ah.
It's not about that.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge nuggets with us. And good luck with FotoPool.
Thank you so much.
Wishing you all the best. We'll probably have a conversation about that because the minute you were saying pitching, I had ideas in my head. I was like, we need to talk about this. But yeah, well, neighbors, thank you so much for staying with us until now. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and follow DIMEJI. What are your platform handles?
It's DIMEJI everywhere, like the DIIMEJII. But for the really cool part, yeah, there's Oladimeji.
Yeah, hello
Yeah,
DIMEJI. That's
that's where
another
you
one.
get the fun stories and the juicy part.
Yeah, and when are we getting another episode on your podcast?
Yeah, definitely February.
Yeah, February.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking forward to that because the first two, I'm rewatching them now. So I need that. I need that one. Well, neighbors, thank you for watching. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh wow.
Honestly, appreciate it.